I'm sick today, but the news is just too good to skip. This is your weekly cybersecurity news roundup. I'm Allie Diamond, and this is ThreatWire. Vercel had a data breach that resulted in environment variables getting compromised. There's a lot of parts of this story getting passed around, so I'm going to break it down for you. In March 2026, a company named Context.ai, not Context.com or Context.inc or Context.dev, but Context.ai, this, as you could tell, has been very confusing for many people, but they had a security incident that resulted in unauthorized AWS access. Context.ai used CrowdStrike to help with remediation. Vercel used Mandiant. It's always one of the two. Here's a meme I made about it. Context.ai shut down their compromised AWS instance, but didn't know that OAuth tokens for some of their users were compromised. The issue? No one knew Vercel was a user. Vercel has a shadow IT problem. One of those tokens was used by the attacker to access Vercel's Google Workspace. Vercel is not a Context customer, but it appears that at least one employee enabled Allow All on all requested Google Workspace permissions using their Vercel Google Workspace account. This third-party OAuth token was used to take over the Vercel employee's Google Workspace account and then used to get access to Vercel environments. The CEO of Vercel, Guillermo Rauch, released a statement on Twitter explaining more about the breach, instead of on the formal company blog. But anyways, he says that Vercel stores customer environment variables fully encrypted at rest, that only non-sensitive environment variables were compromised, and that only a small number of customers were affected. He specifically said that the attack was, quote, significantly accelerated by AI. Now to the non-objective side of the reporting. In my opinion, as a non-security professional, but someone who has been following this space for years, this was never actually an AI-based attack. This was a failure of OAuth management by the Vercel security team. Vercel has a shadow IT problem, an OAuth sprawl problem, and needs to do better educating their employees about OAuth tokens and permissions. This is something that I've seen a lot of cybersecurity professionals sharing similar sentiment about. And you're probably wondering what exactly Context.ai is anyways. I did a little bit of research, and it's a tool that collects information in order to pre-build AI agents to be used in highly specific situations like semiconductor fabrication and legal spaces. Rumor has it that at some point, Context.ai had received their SOC 2 compliance from Delve. Yes, that Delve. A majority of ThreatWire viewers are cybersecurity enthusiasts and professionals, so I have a question for you. Do you consider context-aware AI a form of spyware? Do you allow context collection on your internal systems if you do cybersecurity for work? Given the fragility of the AI landscape and how quickly these AI companies are popping up, do you believe these companies have good enough security to be allowed to execute essentially key logging and adjacent information collection on sensitive systems? Last episode, we chatted about the increased demand of age verification on computers and internet systems. A lot of the comments are pushing back that governments were not interested in protecting children through the age verification requirements, but instead it was about internet censorship and internet control. Adam JL7I left the following comment. If they're going to pass laws to require age verification, they should include stipulations that prevent companies from harvesting that data. It should be a confirmation only. We know they're going to use as much of the info as they can and sell as much of it as they can, which I agree. If they're going to do some form of age verification, there needs to be a guarantee that they won't sell that data, just like there needs to be a guarantee that Context.ai systems won't sell that data. Context.ai systems in this case, meaning AI-based companies who gather context about work for AI systems. I do have a unique anecdote that for this, while doing my Hack5 work, I actually have an LLC that I do business through. I now received a bajillion and a half emails from companies soliciting me for business regarding LLC management, filing required paperwork, and more. I'm still genuinely stunned that this is happening, and I think it's weird that the government allowed this to happen. Such unnecessary enshittification. On the last episode, we did get a lot of pushback about my take on pro-internet age restriction, but I'll give the context that I am the poster child for how unmitigated internet access affects mental health, as well as how over-internet indulgence affects your ability to focus. It feels like an addiction. and I hate it. So I think you could see what and where I come from with that take. I'm not gonna get my family involved with this, so leave them out of it. I think for many of you, you probably use or see the internet as access to a tool, while I see the internet as a substance to get addicted to. Knowing how to be independent of the internet is important for rising youth. Discussion around Claude Mythos is not done yet. The AI Security Institute, based out of the UK, was given access to Claude Mythos. They carried out independent third-party testing of the Claude Mythos model, and here's what they found. Yes, Claude Mythos is the most impressive AI model they've seen since they started tracking AI cybersecurity capabilities in 2023. Following Moore's Law, I expect that no one is surprised. Each model they track, they put through a series of challenges. 4 CTFs they deem to be technical non-expert level, apprentice level, practitioner level, and expert level. On the expert level tasks, Claude Mythos was found to be able to succeed at the CTF 73% of the time. No model was able to even complete the expert level test prior to April 2025. In addition, they have a 32-step corporate network attack simulation called The Last Ones, which they evaluated to take humans up to 20 hours to complete. Compared to Mythos, the next best model was able to complete an average of 16 of the 32 steps across 10 attempts. Claude Mythos was able to complete TLO in 3 of its 10 attempts and averaged 22 steps completed. Where one lives, another comes. OpenAI got a little lonely in the conversation and decided on April 14th to release their top-of-the-line, cybersecurity-focused model. NIST is giving up on CVEs and the NVD. On April 15th, 2026, the NIST published an article outlining changes to the NVD program and how they will proceed with enriching or adding details to CVE submissions. The TLDR of the article is that it's basically no longer a priority. Prior to this article, the NIST made a concerted effort to attempt to enrich all CVEs submitted to the NVD. But due to the extreme influx of CVEs, they're unable to keep up. This change is driven by a surge in CVE submissions, which increased 263% between 2020 and 2025. We don't expect this trend to let up anytime soon. Submissions during the first 3 months of 2026 are nearly 1/3 higher than the same period last year. We are working faster than ever. We enriched nearly 42,000 CVEs in 2025, 45% more than any prior year. But this increased productivity is not enough to keep up with growing submissions. Okay, so technically they're not stopping enriching CVEs. Instead, they've created a structure of which ones are going to be prioritized. CVEs who appear in the CISA known exploited vulnerabilities catalog, CVEs affecting federal government software, and CVEs for critical software will be prioritized for enrichment. There is a formal definition for what they use for the concept of critical software, as defined by an executive order signed in mid-2021. In addition, the NIST will no longer provide official NVD severity scores for CVEs and will instead rely on the scores given by the numbering authority. Finally, all CVEs that were in the backlog to get enriched have been moved into a not scheduled category. There may be a time when they get enriched, but there is no prioritization and do not hold the expectation for them to get enriched with any data anytime soon. I remember years ago, having a CVE was seen as a minimum requirement for getting a job in cyber. I can't tell you if that's still the case, but it definitely accelerated the interest in CVE finding. Apologies to bring it back to AI and the AI conversation, but with or without AI, involved CVEs have been on the rise. As a reminder, we saw Curl earlier this past year. I guess I test technically late in October. And their bug bounty program because people were pushing AI slop takes as CVEs and vulnerabilities that needed to be remediated. And more companies are following suit. Cal.com, a personal scheduling application, recently announced their intention to take their core product from being open source to being closed source. Their reason? AI security. Do you think we'll see more companies and projects go closed source as AI security becomes more of a concern? I will say my dad has been trying for years to convince me to switch to Bitwarden because they have really good security because they're open source, which is not... That's like saying apples and oranges. Anyways... BSides news. Zoom has released a new feature to check whether the user is a person or an AI by using Sam Altman's World, an iris scanning identity company. Trail of Bits has published a blog post walking through how they beat Google's zero-knowledge proof of quantum cryptanalysis. Meta has teamed up with Portsbigger to give Burp Suite professional licenses to certain bug bounty participants. Google used Gemini AI to analyze Google Ads and remove over 602 million scam ads. Thank you so much for watching ThreatWire for the week of April 20th, 2026. If you enjoyed the show, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe. We're still so close to 1 million subscribers. I would like to get there before DEF CON, maybe by the end of the next horoscope season would be cool. I'm just throwing out ideas. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let me know what you think about this new look. I know it's very different from what we've been doing for a very long time, but the editor and I thought it may be interesting to give ThreatWire a refresh and maybe help drive some more engagement so that we can finally hit 1 million. I'm super determined to keep those numbers going up, so please let me know what you think about it in the comments. And I know there's a lot to discuss in the comments, so I want to see multiple comments from people, okay? If you want to find me online, you can find me everywhere at Ending with Allie. And remember, good luck, have fun, and don't get caught.